admit all.
It's been 51 years in the making.
Hi. Thank you, everyone. And then when you're ready to do the recording, it's under More, Recording, and Record to Cloud.
Okay, we did that. Now, how do we let everybody in?
You just click on them up to the right. Oh, everybody's in.
Yeah, 3 participants.
Everybody's
Oh,
in.
Eric's in too?
Yeah, well, it's just dark.
Real dark. He's
Oh,
hiding
gotcha.
out in the car.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, Tyler. I could have sat up for 10
So
minutes.
no Josh, then is he on his way?
Yeah, he is on his way. He said he was just stuck in traffic.
Okay.
Yeah, traffic was kind of ugly.
Yeah, well, yeah, Amazon's back.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and call us to order at 5:01. Amy, are you able to do roll call or do you want someone else to do that?
I can do roll call. I'm pulled over to the
Okay.
side. So good evening, Commissioner Woolham,
Here?
Commissioner Webster,
Here,
Commissioner Byers,
Present.
Commissioner Admin,
Here.
and Commissioner Pratt is on his way.
And I also don't see, my mind just went blank, the lawyer.
Matt Paxton.
Yeah, Matt Paxton is not in here yet, but I'll let you know if he comes in, Amy.
Okay, thank you. And I'm Board Secretary Amy Oakley.
And then there were no public comments that were sent in ahead of time, and I don't see anyone else on here. So can we get an approval of the agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Everyone in favor say aye.
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 You're muted, Eric. He might be busy.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. So now we've got, there's Mr. Paxton just arrived, Amy.
Thank you. I just admitted him.
There we
Perfect,
go.
okay.
Here.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, so nominations for the board chair position.
Do you want to do it?
Well, I'm gonna be traveling, so I don't know that I'm gonna be able to be on everything.
I would like to nominate Tyler Byers to be the board chair.
I would second that.
Rick's going. You wait for me. Not me.
I did it.
Not it.
For a year. That was good enough.
Okay, everyone in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Tyler.
You got nominated, but you know.
Take over the meeting.
President Tyler. Okay.
So he takes over.
All right,
Chairman. So it looks like no discussion. So election for vice chair nominations.
I nominate Josh.
I'll second that.
Jeez.
Discussion.
At least you didn't get elected when you weren't here.
Right. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good.
I thought admin was gonna be on the hook for the.
He's gonna be.
I was calling it.
He's
He's
gonna be
got some
traveling.
busy plans here coming up, it sounds like.
Okay.
All right, so next item is.
Wait, motion passes.
Motion passes.
We'll help you with it.
Thank you. Next item, board discussion and possible action items. RFA and ballot measure update.
Yeah, so we've gotten a lot of support from both Kenmore, Lake Forest Park and City of Shoreline's gonna consider it this next Monday. A lot of all of our reps and senators and all that have supported it. I think I briefed you on the Evergreen hospital, their commissioner supported it. So a lot of people are supporting it and all that. The pro committee submitted a pro statement and then countered the con statement. Just so that you all know, there was a thing that was said in the statement that was absolutely false. And I believe it was known to be false because it's been called out. But it states that the levy rate will go to $1 in 2026. And that's not true. By resolution and our RFA plan, it'll be set at 70 cents. And then even if it was not going to be established by the RFA plan and by resolution at 70 cents, it'll be limited to a 1% increase thereafter. So there's no way that it can go up to $1.
True.
I don't know how much fallout there will be, for people that actually believe it or not, but I just thought I'd make sure that you all know in case you're confronted on it.
Chief, does the con or what is that? The rebuttal to the con statement, does that address that and call it out?
To some degree, I was asked by the pro committee, is this accurate? And I told them exactly what I just told you. And I can't remember what they wrote, but I think they called it out to some degree, maybe not as strenuously as I would have liked, but it's not my call.
They've got to do it. We've got to be neutral.
Yeah. So, I can find out, and I do have a copy of it. I just, because the county elections, they sent me the validated, this is the statement, this is the pro statement, the explanatory statement, the pro, the con, the rebuttals. They showed it all to me just to make sure that there wasn't anything that was that wasn't factually correct, but you can't correct those statements, meaning like the addresses or the people and some of the language. So I just want to make sure that you understood in case you're confronted on it.
The locals also put out some information on their social media that I think has been pretty good. I'll look through some of it.
Yeah. So we have developed some one-page informational brochures and so forth as well. Those should be sent out here pretty quick, or start getting handed out. I'm not sure when. Ballot measures I know that the fire benefit charge letters are going to go out around the 17th of this month, and I believe it's about the same time that that we'll get our voter or I'm lost of words.
Pamphlets.
Ballot. Geez, the ballots should be sent out mid to late this month. So for the February 11th election, which I will not be in town for. So.
And we did obviously have a con committee, and do you know who's leading that up?
Yeah, actually I should let you know, there was a little bit of blowback on that as well. I tried to, and it's probably my own fault to some degree. I tried to follow the letter of the timelines, which was 5 o'clock on that Friday, or 5 o'clock on that Friday, to be part of the con committee. But that's when I have to have everything to the county. I have to fill out a form listing who's on the pro committee, contact info, verifying, email addresses, phone numbers, and all that, and the con committee as well.
Yeah.
And so I should not have said 5 o'clock. I probably should have said 5 o'clock the Thursday, and said, you need to give it to this, so that I have a day to prepare the forms and send them all in. I got Dave Marin was he and Paul Hess had submitted a letter way back during the lid lift process that they wanted to be on the con committee. So I knew them, and I had them they gave me their third name. I think his name's Jeff something. Earlier that week, and I prepared all the forms and all that, sent it in on like Wednesday or Thursday to the county, and then at 4:58 p.m. on Friday, I got another Herzog, Nate Herzog, and then Kay Peterson, an ex commissioner, and Nate was upset because he sent it at 4:58 p.m. I didn't even see it until later, that night or next day, and I said, please reach out to Dave Marin. He's the lead. What I'm understanding is the lead for the con committee. Blah 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 blah. And he was upset and sent me about 3 paragraphs. A bit about how he was disappointed and frustrated and was upset. He was like, I may sue you, kind of thing. And I was like, well, I had to put it in and I explained to him what I just explained to you. So again, just so that you know, just in case there's any blowback on this, I think if we ever have this in the future, I will put it a day before. Because the constraint I was following, the timeline I was following is what the county required, but I am required to do some things before that. And I need time to do it. I cannot do it in 2 minutes. I risk not getting it in and then us being in trouble because we didn't submit, a con committee. So anyway, I put him in contact with Dave. I reached out to Dave and told him that there was a couple more people that and he wanted to know who, and I told him, and that was still days before the con statement was due. So I felt like that there would be time for Herzog to get, involved. He didn't send me that letter that I just told you about until after the statement was due. Actually, about the same time that the statement was due was actually when he sent me the letter, and I said, well, did you reach? Anyway, so I felt like I did everything legally and to the constraints that are required by the county. I just think in the future that, a lesson learned that I may set the deadline locally for us, at least, a day before.
24 hours.
Yeah,
before,
so that everybody knows the deadline and doesn't believe, and that's not our deadline, but that's the deadline we set for everybody else. So I just, again, full transparency, I just wanted to make sure you guys understood some of the drama there.
You've also kind of heard through the grapevine that like the mayor, the city manager of Shoreline maybe was raising some
The mayor.
noise.
The mayor was, so I addressed the city, a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. And lots of support across the board or the council. The mayor, at the end asked a question about if the population is basically 2/3, 1/3, why is it an equal vote? Between, why is the governing board going to be equal 5 and 5? And I explained it, and I explained that we were trying to be true partners in this and collaborative, and that there could be changes down the road, but that would require, some, a vote of the people to change for us to go from 5 to 3 or to 7 would take a vote. And there isn't a legality. That was internal for us.
That's how, what we negotiated.
And I was, the Shoreline Board was that way too. They wanted it to have parity. And so I kind of explained all that. What I probably should have added was that to do what he was asking would actually take a second vote right now to do, not only set the RFA, but set it in a different way. And I tried to, and I threw out another email to follow up with that, and I haven't heard back. I'm going to reach out to him again and see if there's any more questions that he may have. I think he's still a supporter.
Or is he gonna try to oppose it?
No, he's not. Well, I don't know. I don't want to speak for him. He's not. He's actually a supporter of it. He just was wanting.
Concerned about the governing.
Yes. The makeup of the governing board. And he still may support it. He may not vote in support of it next because they got a resolution in front of him for next week. He may not vote in support of it. I'm not sure. Or he may abstain, or he may support it. I haven't heard. Everybody else was in support of it, and I think I know that he's a supporter of regionalization. I just think he would have preferred the makeup of the board to be different. So, but other than that, he's the only person I've talked to aside from the con committee people that have said anything. Well, I had a couple of good questions even from Evergreen Hospital. They were just like, well, what do you and so I feel like there's a lot of good support out there. So
The consent agenda.
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Any discussion? Favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Here. Reports, fire chief report.
I have one thing to add to my report, but then a couple of asks at the end, but I'll wait and see if you guys have any questions. The thing I was gonna add to my report is in my activity report, I said I didn't have the November financial report. I got it after I pushed send to you guys. Interesting enough, we're actually at 1.3% now under budget.
Wow.
We were at 0.7. December will be a heavy month. It always is a heavy month, but I feel pretty confident that we will be under budget or at least close to on budget after we reconcile the whole year. So, which won't be until later this month, and then once I get all that, then I'll do the reconciliation process for our budgets. So,
Is there anything driving that?
the 1.3%.
Yeah.
It's a great question. I started to kind of dive into some of it. Some of the projects, some of the things outside, most of our bigger projects are in the capital, but there were even some projects in the budget that we weren't able to get to because of just time and workloads and costs and stuff like that, just like we've encountered here at North Shore. That we just didn't get to in 2025. That might be a little bit of it, but I think we've just done a good job of trying to maintain manage the budgets and all that, and not there's only been a handful of times that I've been asked to exceed the budget line items by significantly. I don't mind little things, but so I think I think most of it's just that we've done a good job more than anything else. So
capital projects, we have that generator. And
Yeah.
Station 57, and they're doing their load assessment. That's been
Yeah.
going on for
a while. I was hoping I was going to get an update for you from Matt Hochstein. He was down in Chehalis at with a meeting on one of the aid cars
Mhm.
today, and he hit traffic, and I didn't get an update in time.
Can you
But I
have-
did ask him after our last meeting. I said, "What is going on? I need to know what's going on." And he goes, "The last I heard from the electrical contractor," and he was reaching out to the electrical contractor. I just don't know if he got an update. It was that they needed a certain amount of time to do a load. They wanted to see all the peaks and valleys and all that to get it. But you're right; it's been going on for like at least a couple of months, I think.
Yeah,
So
they should have what they need.
it's on my list of things.
Have Matt reach out to me when he gets it.
Okay.
Let me know what's going on. Thank
So-
you.
How did they fare during the power outage? And
Didn't hear anything. But I do know that the generator requires, when it does kick on, usually within the hour or two, it needs somebody to go down there and make one of our mechanics to go down and
Take a hammer too.
kick it real hard.
Percussive maintenance.
Yeah.
I
I like that.
Forest Park, it wasn't out like.
It didn't get hit nearly as bad as a little bit further east of us.
They must,
So-
where do they get their power from? Is it City Light that supplies? most of it?
Yeah.
See, that's the
Well,
difference.
let's see.
We have
There's a
PSE.
difference between 57 and 51. I think
51's PSE and
that must be City Light then.
City Lights.
Yeah. The other issue that in the big power outage was that it seemed like there was almost microbursts. There were areas that got hit really hard, and like for example in Bothell, like downtown Bothell and southern Bothell got creamed,
Mhm.
but Canyon Park wasn't out for very long.
Hmm.
Barely. Yeah, I was working, I was getting ready, nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I remember that night because I had a meeting here, and I went back outside, and the wind was supposed to be kicking by 5.
Right.
As I drove in, I'm like, there's like no wind. Left here, really no wind. I went from here to a meeting in Bothell and got to Bothell, and there was a little bit of wind, but I parked in the garage, but I knew that there was a little bit of wind. While I was at the meeting in Bothell, the lights flickered a couple times and power didn't go out, but I left Bothell and they lost power and like
Did
within a
Shoreline?
half hour.
Shoreline lose power?
Not for very long. It was kind of
Again,
surprising,
winds.
but I went east from Bothell and there was some wind and I'm like, it was starting to kick up. But as soon as I turned south because I was going home, as soon as I turned south on 405 and hit North Kirkland, it was ripping.
Mhm.
And it was really weird how it channeled.
Coming through the passes, that was pretty crazy.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah.
The North Bend fared fairly well
Hmm.
considering, but we get most of our wind out of the east anyway. And that was the big scare, was that the wind was coming
Oh.
from a different direction.
Mhm.
That vortex was swirling it around and coming from the east.
Yeah.
We already get a lot of our wind from the east, and we got some pretty it was 50, 60 mile an hour in the gusts in North Bend, but it was coming from the east. And so we did okay. We lost power, but we got back the next afternoon.
It was 3 days for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we were 4. in
Bothell was out for quite a while, but Canyon Park the next day.
Wow.
So Shoreline did okay. We lost power in certain areas, and there was a few pockets in Shoreline that lost it for a few days, but most of it came back then.
I have a big generator, so I've powered 3 houses.
Oh, nice.
And my 2 neighbors are elderly, so
Wow,
I run
that is a big one.
run a cord over to them and
Good for you.
catch it up.
That's nice of you. I have a question after our meeting then. So
Full refrigerators out too.
I'm playing, yeah, we got shed, the one has a freezer and 2 refrigerators, and the other one just has 1 refrigerator, so we got those going plus lights, and I have a 7 kW, so it'll,
I have 7.5, yeah. So
that big Honda one, and it's nice.
so I do have a couple. Was there any other questions for my activity report? Because I do have a couple asks that aren't on there. The first one is I've had an ask from admin staff of having Kathy, instead of she does spend quite a few days over at 61 She Splits, as having her default there and having her come back here on the events and times when there are needs. There's just not as much work here for her, and we could utilize her better there. There's still staff here that can answer the door and so forth. And she would be here some days of the week, depending on what the activity is, and if we have any events. But it was an ask, and I was like, okay, I need to come to you guys to see if there was any concerns there.
So what would be the staff here that would be able to answer questions from our public? Is there?
Well, they could answer the door. It really depends on what the questions are that are being asked. Most of the people that are coming here are asking questions for like the fire marshal office, which we have 2 assigned here. We have an assistant fire marshal, Todd Johnson's here, and deputy fire marshal. Which one's here? I think John Henson is here as well. So we have at least 2 of our fire marshal, plus Jennifer's here, that she gets a lot of the requests for fire marshal's office, and she's also going to be fielding the fire benefit charge questions too. So there are still people here. It's just Kathy. There's not very many people coming in to ask Kathy for anything.
Mhm.
She's answering the door, but she's not. It's not the most effective use of her time.
She's more useful at
And she
61.
could, and it probably. She would like it.
Yeah,
She would like to be busier.
Yeah, I would say keep her at 61 personally, but
So.
Yeah, initially, I think the idea was to keep someone here so that we kept that community presence. and-
Right.
Because we didn't have, over 57, so it's the only place where people can go centrally, and so if there's someone here to answer questions.
Well, there's still gonna be
that's
people
public,
here.
I think that's
It's, yeah,
reasonable. I don't want to just, it kind of seems wasteful if she's not doing anything.
right.
there'll still be people here. It's just there won't be somebody sitting at the front desk. But we're locking the door anyway, so it's somebody would go and open the door. And again, most of the traffic that we're getting, because we've been kind of tracking it, is fire marshal. I mean, if there is any questions, and most of the stuff is online anyway, there's questions about fire marshals. Now and then there's a question of, well, actually, let's strike that. There are blood pressure checks and things
Yes.
like that, but that's not something Kathy's doing anyway.
Yes.
That's one of the day staff or the on-duty crew that's gonna be doing those anyway. So, but we could try it out, and if there's a problem, if there's a failure or something, then we can, have another discussion about it. But I'd like to utilize her a little bit better. So, okay, cool. The other question I had, and it's one we've talked about before, but I'm in the process of reviewing some of the contracts in the shorelines. And I wanted to bring it up again to see if there was any interest in it. Again, we have time, because it would probably be something that we would implement, January 1 of 2026, which is to look at any service contracts. The one in particular that I think I briefed you all on, and there's others, is St. Edward's, which is not, because it's a tax exempt property. They're not paying hardly anything, towards fire service. And typically, I put those types of properties on a service contract that is at least reflective of some of the needs for services there. And I typically, we can frame it however you guys want, but I typically don't go full load I usually do like half the value of the land and the full value of the property, and then take the, equivalent levy rate or something like that. The last time I looked at it, which was at least a year or two ago, I think you guys might remember when I brought it up before. I felt like there was probably about $100,000 a year shortage of and I'm not, again, it depends on how you guys want to do this. But I'm just wanting to bring it up again only because I'm looking at some of the other contracts and revamping some of the contracts in Shoreline.
So my question with that is. There's one paying business up there, that's the hotel. The rest of it is all public use.
Right.
Property, so can that hotel stay in business with $100,000 hit? I mean,
Well, it wouldn't be on them, it'd be on
On
the,
university,
yeah,
last year.
Bastyr.
yeah.
So
It
is
would-
it for Bastyr as well, or is it just for St. Edwards?
It'd be for any of the properties up there that are tax exempt that aren't, and I think it is Bastyr, I think it's the hotel. There,
The
and
hotel side?
Yeah, it's on the
it's
property.
on tax
Wow.
exempt property,
Yeah, so they're not,
so.
that was my
um,
question.
Now, again, I don't quote me on this because I can't remember if they're paying the fire benefit charge or what they're paying. I'd have to look into that.
Yeah,
But this is one of those things that can become politically charged. So I just wanted to, and again, we don't have to make a decision tonight. Maybe just think about, and we have time. But I just want to make sure that I brought it to your attention because, like I said, I was working on some of the contracts.
It might be interesting to look at
sure.
like what their, potential fire load building could be, and like what the
I will-
results would be, and how many times that they've called for services.
It's a little scary. It's a little scary up there.
Well, yeah, it's bigger than what we have.
Well, and it's old. It's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't have, I mean, some of it's stone, so it's not gonna burn. But some of it, and especially there are people up there. At one point, I know that they were doing a boutique hotel post-birth thing.
as part of Bastyr.
I don't know what part of it was. I just know because one of my medics, his wife does that kind of work and was working up there actually. And I was like, whoa, okay. And we do have call and you can't just negate the property itself too, because we do have aid calls. And even now and then a little trail rescue thing or something, going on up there. It's not a super big call producer, but you can't dismiss that there isn't a need up there. It's not, I don't think it's huge. It's not a huge call center for us, but at the same
It'd be
time,
nice to have that just to go.
from a exposure, I mean, you wouldn't want that to burn down. They have an expectation for, fire service and emergency medical services. So it's just something I would like to bring up again, just, for consideration. And it wouldn't just be that, it would be any of the tax exempt properties that aren't, exempt from everything. And there are some that are exempt from, like, places of worship and things like that. They're exempt from everything. So anyway, how about some food for thought? And you just, maybe let me know, next month or if you want more information or if you want me to start working on it.
I think that I'd be interested in more information and kind of investigating, but not ready to make any kind of a decision on it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Like, yeah, maybe what some of the impacts would be to them, because there's different ones, I imagine, and there'd be different impacts for each of them.
Yeah, I can do some estimating and get some more information about like what the square footage, at least what the public records show on for square footage, and maybe I can even get call data, for the last year or two. I don't think it's a lot, but so
I know the hotel that they renovated was right up to modern standards. With the, risers and everything. So.
Yeah.
That, I don't know about Bastyr. I don't know what they've done with their buildings there. So they're,
well, and then I mean,
are they using old buildings or have they renovated them before
Yeah.
they opened? I don't
Well,
know.
they've got all that multi-family student living in the back too, but there's a lot on that property.
there is a lot, and I don't even know, I've never even walked through all of it. I've kind of driven around or gone and had picnics or whatever. So I will I'll try and get some more information say, so we can have a better conversation. That was it. Thank you.
Any commissioner reports? Legal counsel report?
Yeah, I have a couple things to give you guys updates on this month. The first is a case out of just Division 1 of the Court of Appeals here in Washington on the Public Records Act. And finally, we have some good news. This case, well, moderate your expectations, but better news than we've had for a while. The city of Sammamish got sued for a public record request that was quite broad. And one of the issues that really came up is how the city council members were searching their personal devices. There's something called a Nissan affidavit, which basically says that commissioners or people that have public records on their private devices or may have should sign an affidavit saying they've looked through that personal device, retrieved what was responsive, if anything, and then and that satisfies the good faith requirement under the statute. That's what happened in this case, is that there was kind of, I think there's like 23 affidavits that the city submitted to the other side. And the requester had taken the position that to do a good faith search of those city council members' records, they needed to actually file a lawsuit against them to compel them to disclose those private emails, conduct discovery, basically use the courts as a way to force, to get into the private devices. And the court here said that is, that they're weighing the right of privacy for the government against the transparency expectation of the Public Record Act. And so the court, in a favorable decision for public agencies, said that the public agencies don't need to go that far. And that, again, we can rely on the commissioner's affidavits that they have, in fact, completed the searches that they've indicated. So still a lot required under the Public Records Act, still potential liabilities, but here the city really went above and beyond by getting those declarations. Some of you may, I think I can only think of one time that's been necessary for North Shore, but that's happened just in December. The second thing I wanted to just bring your attention to is, every year or two, the auditor seems to kind of cherry pick an issue. They usually pick an issue that is kind of widespread, but they have turned a blind eye to. This year, I think the verdict is in, and they're looking at shift trades. So if you haven't already been following, the auditor issued a kind of a press release in October. And then I've started seeing clients with audit, management letters where they have shift trades that are either there's a significant deficit in the shift trades. So somebody's traded a lot of shifts but hasn't repaid those trades. That can happen maybe because they're spread out over a long period of time, or somebody takes a lot of shift trades right up front. And they also identified situations where people left the employment prior to repaying all the shift trades that they owed. So those are the auditor's going to be looking at that this year. I can just tell you. And if you don't already have a policy in place, it'd be good to do that. Look at how you guys stack up. Are you tracking it right now? Are you things that we recommended is kind of having a shorter, like limitations on how you do shift trades. I don't know if you do like has to be repaid in the same calendar year, or can't have more than 4 or 5 active shift trades at a time, or if you leave work. And I think this is the one the auditor is most interested in, is that if you leave work with like a negative trade imbalance, you should not get cashed out your entire vacation. There should be some credit given back to the district so that you're made whole, essentially, for what is ultimately going to be a shift that you'll need to fill, probably with overtime. At that point, it's an overtime rate. So that's just something to be aware of. Both of those things, I think, can in unfortunate situations rise to the board's level. Hopefully, you guys, this is just an update for you guys, and you guys won't run into trouble here. And that's all I have to report unless there's questions.
I just had a comment. I just wanted you to know that Todd officially retired yesterday. And so there's no more conflict of interest on my part. So just to give you a heads up.
Thank you. And congratulations, Todd.
Thank you.
So I will say that I'll talk about the public records request first and say that Shoreline, I have one individual who inundates me with public records requests. Hundreds, maybe even over 1,000 now. I sometimes, half a dozen a day, at times. And because he can, and because he wants to bully. So reform in this area would be good. I am for public records requests and transparency, but not when it's being weaponized like it is for this. So I'm happy and I think we're fortunate here in North Shore that we're not, getting those kinds of requests. So that part's good. On the trade piece, Matt, we don't, in general, we do not have open-ended trades, and when we've had people that have left the department owing a trade, it hasn't happened very often, but I have taken 24 hours of vacation out of their bank and given it to the person that they owed. Or I'm sorry, whatever the amount of their shift was, whether it was 12 or 24. And sometimes there was one guy who had owed like 3 or 4 shifts.
Oh,
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the auditor comes up with. I do have a meeting on Monday morning with the auditor for the official entrance risk, or it's not actually the entrance, I'm sorry, the official risk assessment. So I've already done shorelines. They didn't ask anything about the trades, so it'll be interesting if she does.
So does the union have, is that a negotiable item on the union?
It is, but on something like this, the law would give leverage to the change.
Yeah.
So I've had some pushback at times with some of these things. I look at trades as a contract between 2 individuals. You don't want me involved, so you guys figure this out, and keep us out of it, because you don't want me involved in this. Because if I have to start managing it, then it not only is it more work and I don't want to do it, but the department is going to get much more involved with, how often and when and all of that. It sounds like that might be coming regardless, depending on how far they want to move the needle. So.
Mr. Paxton, what's the nature of the concern here? What brought this to the front?
Yeah, so prior to the auditor's advice, our advice had been very similar to what Chief just mentioned, which is under the FLSA, the Fair Labor Standards Act, the Federal Minimum Wage Act, and overtime rules. Trade substitutions are private agreements. You don't need to monitor them. You don't need to. There's no effect on overtime. They don't even need to be trades. They can be just straight up substitution, and maybe there's like a cash payment behind the scenes that we're not aware of. That's FLSA. The auditor came in and said, well, look, there are a lot of other impacts when you do a shift trade. And I think they don't spell this out, but I think what they're thinking is like unemployment contributions that are going now to the wrong person. Paid family medical leave contributions. And so when these are traded, everything works its way out in terms of those. But they basically said that there needs to be internal controls to make sure there's not like gifts of public funds when an employee leaves with a negative trade balance. That's, I think, where they draw the hook. So the FLSA hasn't changed, and for private employers, that's still the rule. But for public employers in Washington, at least, the auditor is going to be looking at that from a gift of public funds perspective primarily, but also a compliance with these other wage laws that get impacted.
Any more discussion? Okay, setting for upcoming board agendas.
So Amy, I noticed signed off.
Sure.
So she told me, she said the February 4th was the election. Is that not correct?
It's February 11th.
February 11th. Okay, so that will be on the discussion, and then that was kind of the only thing she had moving forward besides the normal stuff.
I do want to come back and give an update on capital projects and all that, at least the 57. If not,
Yeah.
maybe we'll have some traction on doing the RFQ for the architect and engineer for, if Matt has the bandwidth. So if nothing else, let's put it on the agenda for an update on at least 57.
Perfect.
So you pass that on there.
I will.
All right.
And I'll have more information, but I'll include that probably in my activity report.
I have one comment to make, and it's kind of a rule of order. When we do our votes and who seconds, who does it, we're supposed to announce that person because we're doing a recording of it. So they want to, I had a couple of different people comment that we just made,
Is what I'm.
Actually,
No one knows who I is.
Interesting enough, this last year, they said that you don't have recording, saying it, yes.
yes,
But for the minutes and stuff, you
Right.
don't have to log those in.
Yeah.
Because Beatrice, our executive assistant,
Mm.
she was like, okay, Rick, you, and you second, okay, and she was like, and
Yeah.
she doesn't have to, it's an internal,
right,
if you want to do
Right.
it kind of thing, but we thought it was required.
yeah.
And we're like, and she's like, oh, I don't have to do
Yeah.
it. She's like, okay.
When the auditor we had a year ago talked about it, that when they're being recorded sessions, that it is good practice to announce
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I'm not saying don't do a first and a second in discussion
Right.
and then the vote. I'm just saying for the minutes and stuff like that,
No,
I thought it was required and it's not.
Yeah.
But it is a good rule of order. So that especially 99% of our stuff is not contentious
Yeah,
and it's not a big
Right.
deal. So it's like first, second, vote, and it's a good habit to get into of like a first, a second, is there any discussion?
right.
Then a vote. Or is there an amendment to the motion or just getting into that habit? I'm not trying to pick, I'm just saying,
That's good.
because
You know what?
if something does
I
get
learned-
contentious, you want to make sure that you're, and especially if we have people that are here that are weighing in or giving testimony or, a public hearing or, comments and stuff like that, so.
All right, any objections to ending the meeting? On the back order.
All right. So you know how to kill it, or is because Amy's.
Oh, okay, so you need to, thank you.
Thank you.